Mask of Memory with Double Strike be like that. So good. I guess we discard the Read the Bones. We've drawn a lot of cards already. Today at Commander Replay, it's an absolute bloodbath with this Snapdax deck as I debate the difference between Armillary Sphere and Wayfarers Bauble. Next on Commander Replay. Hey guys, help support me and save 15% on singles by using the promo code REPLAY at mothershipatx.com. Commander Replay t-shirts, available in orange and colors beside orange. Welcome back everyone, I'm playing some Snapdax today. Today's deck list comes to us from Jeff, who's in the game with us today, piloting Xur. I guess this hand's fine, like it's a lot of lands, but it ramps, and it's got a creature. Snapdax itself is has a little bit of built-in removal, so as long as we draw not entirely lands, we should be good. Witch's Cauldron for opponent. Brings it to our turn 1. There's a Mask of Memory, that'll be helpful. Play the Mistfell Plains tapped, and we'll pass like that. Arcane Signet for opponent. Arcane Signet for the Karametra opponent. Brings it to our turn. There's a Volcanic Offering. That's going to be good for getting things like Xur out of play. Play the Mana Confluence, I guess. Play the Rakdos Signet. Probably could have played Battlefield Forge. But I want to make sure that our colors are good to go over the next couple turns. And, you know, sometimes things get weird. Ooh, maybe we play Snapdax on 4 and then mutate onto it with the Mind Leecher. There's Xur. Daxo's coming in for opponent, and a Signet. Ooh, that's a Neheb. Neheb is something cool to mutate onto, that's for sure. We do need to play an untapped land this turn. Probably going to get a little awkward with the tapped lands. Play the Battlefield Forge. Play Neheb. Cast Neheb. There's a Coffers for opponents. They have Coffers and Nykthos. Later in the game, those will be a problem. Right now, not too bad, but sure it'll be a thing. Well, there's a Fleshbag Marauder. Gonna lose all of that stuff. You know, I always want to use this card more, and things like this happen. You cast it, and they just immediately shoot it. At least the Xur is down, though. So this turn might be play the bounce land, cast Snapdax on 4, and kind of get through some of that stuff. Sejiri Merfolk coming in. If you control the planes, it has First Strike and Lifelink. Seems good. Is this Xur Merfolk? Looks like it. Well, that's probably one of the softest ways to build Xur. Thankfully, because not even like full power Xur, just like, I don't know, average Xur is still a really heinous deck. Karametra coming in. There's a Knight of the Ebon Legion. So yeah, I think we cast Snapdax. Then we'll play the Basilica, pick up the Battlefield Forge, and we'll pass like that. So yes, we are playing Snapdax today. It is a 4-mana 3/5 with Double Strike, and you can mutate it for 5 mana. Whenever this creature mutates, it deals 4 damage to target creature or planeswalker an opponent controls, and you gain 4 life. Some really cool stuff to be doing with this thing. Mutating on the Death Touch creatures is pretty sweet. The fact that it's a little bit of removal and some life gain built in is just a lot of nice utility to have in your command zone. It does play very similarly to a Voltron deck. The mutate stacks are weird because they are a little bit more fragile than a straightforward like equipment Voltron deck, because obviously you lose all the creatures to a creature board wipe, and that's kind of a headache. The other thing too is that equipments generally make your commander large. The mutate piles don't necessarily get very big. They just tend to have a lot of abilities. You usually need something else to really kind of enhance the size. Now in this deck there will be a few things that do that, but just in general, from what I've seen out of Mutate commanders, kind of comparing it to Voltron. Voltron, they get bigger, the artifacts stick around a little bit longer, kind of a more tried and true Voltron style, where Mutate Voltron like this does have some downside, but there's a lot of upside too. You can really do a lot with those Mutate abilities. Being able to re-trigger those abilities multiple times throughout a game can generate a lot of value for you, so a little bit of a trade-off there. Want to get themselves a Felidar Retreat, plays a land, cracks a fetch, and they're going to get themselves a bunch of cats. Yep. We draw a Plains. I think we're going over to Dock, try to get some damage in. Let's cast the Mask of Memory. Equip the Mask of Memory. Hope this doesn't get blasted. Sweet, that hits. We're going to draw some cards. Let's do some looting. Ooh, Volrath Stronghold is very cool. Do we need Knight of the Ebon Legion? Nah, let's discard the Plains. Second hit. Read the Bones, Sunforger. Those are good cards. Yeah, now we'll discard the Ebon Legion. Let's play the Volrath Stronghold. We could read the Bones, but that would put us to 8 cards and we would just discard again. I don't want to play an unprotected Sunforger. That's not a thing that I like doing. Now we could just put the head back on top. That's not the worst thing I've ever heard. Yeah, maybe we do that. We'll pretend like we have something, but I think I might just put Neheb back on top of our deck because that's a cool card to have around. Let's take a look at what our opponents are playing today. So first up is Doc Jock playing Ghoulcaller Gisa. 5 mana, 3/4, pay a black, tap it, sacrifice another creature, create X/2/2 zombies where X is the sacrificed creature's power. I know that you can do cool stuff with this commander, but every time someone seems to play one on the channel, they always seem to get stuck. So I haven't actually seen the true potential of this deck, but maybe someday. Opponent discarded 2 cards to make a zombie with zombie infestation, and then sacrificed it to the Witch's Cauldron. They gain 1 life and draw a card. What'd they discard? Josu Vess and Open the Graves. I guess they're really just looking for lands. Yeah, the Cabal Coffers is awkward early in the game if you don't have Urborg in play. Wake Thrasher getting huge. Whenever you untap a permanent, it gets +1/+1 until end of turn. That will certainly be a thing. Just taking a quick peek to see what we have available once we get the Sunforger in. We do have an Akroma's Will. That's a nice piece of protection right there. Boros Charm, Rakdos Charm. Note to Fairies. Want to keep that in mind. Swords Path, Anguished Unmaking. He's got a Molten Steel Dragon in this deck. Funny card. It's a funny card. Adaptive Automaton for opponent. Interesting. So Zura's probably in there just to go get like some tribal enchantment would be my guess. What's the Kindred Discovery? Probably, maybe 1 or 2 others. Opponent levels up their Coral Helmed commander. At level 4, it'll get Flying and other Merfolk have +1/+1. Yeah, love it. Wake Thrasher coming our way. We're going to feel that. Potentially we mutate the Mind Leecher this turn, and that'll give us 4 damage to shoot somewhere and gain us 4 life back, so seems like that could be pretty good. The Zur opponent, by the way, and like I think I mentioned earlier, the Zur opponent, we are piloting their Snapdax list, so they probably have a pretty good idea of what's coming. Our final opponent, by the way, is Mango. Piloting this Karametra deck, said they just got it together before the game and wanted to test it out, so I'm not sure what the exact plan is. We see a Reese right there, you know, probably tokens. Probably tokens. I think Mango was playing a Reese deck the other day, so instead make it Karametra Reese tokens. Why not? While this is all happening, we'll put in the head back on top of our deck. Shamanic Revelation, they draw a bunch of cards. That seems pretty good. Fell at our retreat. Opponent makes another 2/2. Yeah, good things happening over on their side. Brings it back to our turn. There's that Neheb we saw. We'll only be on 7 mana this turn with an untapped land, which is the magic number for Sunforger is 8, so I really don't want to play an unprotected Sunforger. I hate doing that. So we're probably going to mutate this thing, although if we do that, it's flying. Yeah, maybe we just do it now. Cast with Mutate. Choose Snapdax. Not a lot of mana up amongst our opponents right now. They've got 1 over there. Could be a path, actually. I'd prefer not to lose this stack. So we'll hit the Zur opponent, that being the case. They could be bluffing, and if they are, it's totally working. This is a 5/5 with flying. We'll put that one on top. Mind Leecher going to go over. 2 triggers. Yeah, let's shoot this Wake Thrasher. That thing gets out of control pretty quickly. And then we get the Mind Leecher trigger. Exile the top card of each opponent's library face down. May look at and play those cards as long as they remain exiled. Oh, those are some cards. There's a Machias. That one seems pretty good. We'll try to get that one next turn. Let's go to combat. Take a poke at the Zur opponent. They're going to feel this. That's 5 with double strike and commander damage. Hit number 1, Mask of Memory. Signet and Aurelia. Oh my. Discard the Bajuka Bog. We might have to get it back with the Sun Titan later. The graveyards aren't too enticing in this moment. Hit number 2, Mask of Memory. Wow, that's a lot of stuff. Pretty sure we can play lands with this thing. Yeah, it says play, so we can play lands. Discard the Battlefield Forge then. Let's play this pathway. Play the Murkwater pathway. On the black side instead of the blue. I don't think we're going to need the blue for anything in this deck. Then we'll play an Arcane Signet. Get a card out of our hand. Man, looks like we're going to have to discard again. Mask of Memory with double strike be like that. It's so good. I guess we discard the Read the Bones. We've drawn a lot of cards already. Have a lot of card advantage stacked up, so... Hey, we helped out Doc. We took the Machias off the top of his deck, which he just does not need in this moment, and finally got his way to another land. I got into a whole big thing on Twitter about it, but monocolor decks, I still love to run Armillary Sphere. A lot of the monocolors, their options at 2 mana for mana ramp are like, there's a couple good ones, but there aren't enough good ones that I'm like, you know what? I think I'd just rather take turns 2 and 3 to make sure that you hit like your 3rd, 4th, and 5th lands, because you really don't want to get stuck like this, especially when you have a Coffers or something like that. You know what I mean? If he just played an Armillary Sphere on 2, he'd be probably smooth sailing right now and hitting all of his lands and doing the things he wants to do. And it's so important early in a game to turn 1 card into 2 cards. Like, your natural hand is generally not going to be able to get you to like your 5th land drop while having ramp, while having removal, while having a creature. Like, unless you draw perfectly, your hand just isn't going to shape up that way. So it's much easier to have, oh god. It's much easier to have 2 lands in your hand, a couple creatures and a removal spell and like an Armillary Sphere, and get to that same place. Helion's Intervention X2 on Felidar and on Zombie Infestation. Interesting. Didn't go for our Mask of Memory. They too are also tight on mana. Man, if we played this Volcanic Offering, I think it would take 2 players right out of the game. Opponent gonna send a 2/2 our way. They too would also have loved to have had an Armillary Sphere in their hand, and yeah. And so the argument that I made on Twitter is that Armillary Sphere is generally better than Wayfarers Bauble for most decks, because early in a game, turning 1 card into 2 cards, namely lands, is better than you spending 3 mana to ramp with the Wayfarers Bauble just to miss your 4th or 5th land. Like, that's spending 3 mana to do nothing, essentially. If you're just going to miss your 4th and 5th land drop, then there's no point to ramp one. At least in the normal commander setting. In CEDH, that stuff can matter, but if your deck can't win on 4 mana, then, you know, there's no reason to do that. So, yeah, I'm still a fan of Armillary Sphere, especially in monocolor decks that aren't green. I've even put it in some of my paper white decks, just because I've run out of copies of Gift of Estates, which is like $2 or $3. It's enough that I've run out of them for the 12 or so decks that I've got built in paper right now. I'm like, well, still have Armillary Spheres, gets the same job done. It's a little slower, a little bit more mana, but is also less conditional. So you can just kind of do it anytime. Eternal Witness for opponent. Yep, should exile the graveyards. What are we getting back? Felidar Retreat, you say? Will they tap out for it? Here comes the Felidar Retreat back. Ooh, we have a Kaya. So if we use that +1 on Kaya, then we don't care about exile, because they're still holding up that 1, which really makes me think they have it. What would make me happy, actually, is drawing a protection spell off the top. Like if we drew Sajiri Glacier right off the top, that would be super, super helpful, but that's a lot to ask. There's a Vault of the Archangel. That's a pretty cool land. The other thing, too, is if we just drop a Machias, then they, like, have to shoot it. You can't leave a Machias on the battlefield. Yeah, let's go about it that way. Like, Chaos is really good for eating removal. I want to keep our commander alive. Machias is cool and would probably win us the game if it stays in, but yep, it's Mango's turn. I mean, I guess if we gotta burn the path, we gotta burn the path, but we will find out if they have it, because I'm sure they do not want to take this hit. Oh, I think we've called their bluff. That's 6 double strike, 2 Mask of Memory triggers. Discard a Plains. I'll tell you what, this Mind Leecher is really cool. It's like a single Atali trigger, basically. More of them if we mutate more. More lands. This is actually a very reasonable turn to get Myriad Landscape in. Or we could leave up the Anguished Unmaking just to make sure nothing crazy happens. That being the case, discard the Myriad Landscape. Again, that's something we'll grab with Sun Titan later on. Let's see. We need to get a land out of our hand. We have 10 cards in hand. We need to play some stuff. So, I'm going to play Vault of the Archangel. We're going to play Anguished Unmaking. Shooting. I think Felidar Retreat is kind of scary. Machias shuts off just like normal board wipes for us right now, which is really cool. Still 8 cards in hand, man. Just couldn't have envisioned drawing this well. What are we getting rid of? I guess Ghost Quarter. We've got lands. I like having the land destruction around, but we still have the Volcanic Offering, if coffers should be a problem. Look at this hand, though. This hand is just straight gas. Aurelia, Akroma, Neheb, Sun Titan. All my favorite Boros stuff right there. I got a Kaya for some protection, a little bit of removal. Sunforger for even more protection and removal. Doc said Machias is a key card in his list, and we have stolen it. Here's a Crypt Breaker from Doc. Yeah, Felidar Retreat with Karametra does seem kind of insane. Make all the tokens you want, then landfall a whole bunch of times, and make everything huge. Thassa, God of the Sea. What would Akroma do with our stack right here? So it's going to have double strike, flying. I think that's it. So we'll get +2 per combat, which is fine. I don't know if it doesn't have me yearning to dump 7 mana into Akroma this turn necessarily, but Aurelia would be the better of the 2 plays, then followed by Akroma. But really I want to get the Sunforger in for the protection. Fertilid for opponent. Karametra trigger. Garruk's Uprising. They'll draw a card. Creatures will have trample. Karametra's in creature form. Brings it back to our turn. There's a Plains. Yeah, I think we're on Sunforger. Oh. Actually, if we go Aurelia, we can kill 2 opponents. They didn't have removal last turn. Any reason to think that they have it this turn? I'm betting no. How much mana do we actually have? We have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It would take, what, 11? So this is essentially 5. Plus, yeah. So even when we play a land, we're 1 short of doing the sweetness with Aurelia and Kaya, or Aurelia and Vault of the Archangel. That being the case, I think we just slam an Aurelia. Go to combat. This into Mango, that into Doc, that into Dweller. Opponent's gonna Sundering Growth the Mask of Memory. That's fine. It stops the card draw, but we have drawn all the cards we needed up to this point. That does not save them from the damage. Mango goes down. Combat number 2. This one into Jeff. And these 2 into Doc. Oh, we lose that Plains that was in exile. Oh well. Jeff goes down. Play a Plains. Mono black? Probably not getting rid of this Sunforger. I can't imagine what he would have to get out of this. Bam, Doc scoops right there. Yeah, nothing. So, probably don't need to say too much about this game. I think we're going to do a second game, but the main thing here is that 2 opponents got stuck. Don't get stuck. Here we see Wayfarers Bauble. I get it, Snapdax is 4, but is that worth it if you're just going to get stuck and miss your 4th and 5th land? I would probably switch that to an Armillary Sphere. It's a small thing, but it does matter when you get stuck. I personally value the ability to not get stuck higher than the ability to get 1 land ahead. Now, if it's like Cultivate or something, that's a different story. You're ramping and you're finding your land, you're setting yourself up. But for me, I almost never want to see a Wayfarer's Bauble, and I almost always want to see an Armillary Sphere in the opener instead, because I prefer to not get stuck more than I really want that 1 ramp and tapping out 2 turns for that 1 ramp. So yeah, so I think we're going to run it back. So there's 2 games you have with Snapdax. The game where Snapdax stays in play and never goes away, which was this game, or the game where it constantly gets shot and it's difficult to keep in play, and those are 2 very different games. Today we had the game where Snapdax stays in play, and I mean, it ran the table. It was so good. So anyway, I think we're going to run a second game with this one. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. As always, feel free to comment, like, or subscribe. Thank you for watching. I want to thank my awesome Patreon supporters. You guys are awesome. If you want to help support the channel and vote on which decks I play next, feel free to check out my Patreon at the link below.